Game number 610, The Three-Body Problem by RoAnna Sylver. If you want to check it out, it's at roannasilver.itch.io. Okay, let's get into it. I already have the game loaded up. We just have to get closer and zoom in. Okay. Let's start from the beginning. The Three-Body Problem by RoAnna Sylver. Content notes. Non-explicit portrayal of BDSM dynamics, negotiation of consent and boundaries, references to sex and various kink, discussion of past abuse, captivity and consent violation, mention of murder and human sacrifice, knives. These are the different content warning for this. If there's no music in it, I'm gonna switch on mine. My background music. Let's go. Begin. Your heart pounds almost as fast as your running feet, barefoot against the thick, damp grass. You can just barely see silvery edges of shrubs and rocks by the light of the half-tree hidden full moon and your own faint glow. Your illumination spell is small and casually cast, a tiny white star held in your hand, but you almost don't need it. You know this path, you've walked and run it many times before, but this time you're pursued. You can feel the all-seeing eyes upon you, locked on, following always, no matter where you turn. You'll always be hunted and always be watched. Run as fast and as far as you like, little starling. The voice seems to come from every tree all around you. It resonates in your head, making your hair stand on end and your breath catch ever more urgently. Even after every time you've run this path, every little wild and vital hunt, your blood sings and heart pounds. Fittingly, like a bird's frenzied wings against not the dome of a cage but the open sky. I'll find you, I'll always find you. It's a promise. And like the moon herself, Jupiter never breaks their promise. The cool night air feels good against your burning skin and stinging lungs. The leather collar around your neck is secure, and your feet and shins are refreshingly wet from the day's rain clinging to the grass. And all around you, you can hear wind whistling through the trees, and the calls of nocturnal animals, all much more aware of you than you are of them. Something waits in your path up ahead. Just a small distance away is a low, angular shape, much different from the rest of your forest surroundings. Its edges catch your faint light, and it seems to be drawing you in, pulling you steadily forward, impossible to resist. You approach the altar. The long, flat slab of black basalt, ringed with neatly carved runes, sits in a quiet clearing far from the city lights or engine noise. Far from anything, it seems on nights like this. It's so quiet that it would be easy to forget anything loud or bright or confusing exists. A cool, gentle, rose-scented wind with the hint of summer rain brushes past, raising the hair on your arms in a tingling wave and pulling at the sheer, flowing white fabric of your ceremonial robes. You stood before this altar familiar surface many times. Hey Jasmine. Yeah, happy Monday. I hope your Monday's going well as well. How are you doing today? For those who's just come in to the stream, this game had a content warning for Wow, I just forgot. Let me just double check. It's got content warning for it features queer, polyamorous, celestial witches, non-explicit, dominant, submissive kink, consent negotiation, and a full moon. Oh, and knives. It also has knives. I think there was a better list somewhere, but I think it was in the game itself. Yeah, so it has mentions of various forms of sexual expressions as well as kink and DS dynamics. And also features some references to abusive relationships, I believe, and captivity. If I can remember everything, I think that's all of them. Hi EVPVC, how are you doing? You should sleep. Yeah, is it late for you? You're on... I forgot which time zone you're in, but I just remember it's different from mine. Jasmine says, I'm alright, just continuing work on a project. Hope you're doing well. Glad you're getting your Monday stream in. Yeah, I am happy that I managed to find started at my regular time. Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, Norway. Yeah, so you're 8 hours ahead almost from me. Wow, that's it is late for you. Well, if as you're welcome to be here as long as you feel like. All right. So what's the next part of the story? Tonight, you'll lay across it. The knife will touch your skin and your soul will touch infinity. Is it strange, you wonder, for a sacrifice to feel so alive? The knife, which has always been right there in easy view and reach every other night like this one, but it's nothing in its place but dark stone and a thin, shining film of lingering rain. This is not as it should be, you think with a furrow to your painted brow. Stepping closer to look at the altar from another angle. As you do, you hear something behind you. You know before you turn that you are no longer alone. Your heart jumps once again. You stop, your heart feels as if it does. You stop, your heart feels as if it does too. Suddenly your blood, which stung and sang with adrenaline just a moment ago, seems to freeze. A figure stands behind you, and a sharp little thrill races through your veins. But it's not who you expect. It's not the one following your every move on this dark, lush, and verdant and desperately alive night. Sharp, freezing fear rips through your chest, as if you've been stabbed by the missing knife, which isn't so missing anymore. The ritual knife is light, delicate, and polished to a mirror bright shine. Its blade is slim and slightly curved. The shape of it reminds you of a graceful crescent moon, the kind that won't appear for weeks. You've seen it many times before, held it many times before. The only unfamiliar and frightening thing here is the one holding it. A scrawny young man stands before you, all sharp angles and long, worryingly thin limbs, skin appearing as pale as clean white paper under your light wisp, and the luminous silvery moon that desaturates the world. Long, lank hair that may be blonde under all the matted grime falls past his shoulders and partly onto his face, which wears an almost comical, exaggerated expression of wide-eyed, a fever-bright, watery blue panic. His face is covered with a thin film of dirt and darker stains that may be, but you hope and pray to be wrong, blood. He holds the knife in a shaking, white-knuckled fist like it's the most precious treasure he's ever had. His only defense against a world united and committed to his destruction. And he's still staring at you. The silence between you stretches for a long time, tense and increasingly awkward seconds. Few long, tense, and increasingly awkward seconds. The haggard young man, lit up by a wisp of starlight, doesn't move or speak. Maybe he can't. He's panting, and there's an audible wheeze to his breaths, as if he's been running a long way, much further and faster and more desperately than you. His t-shirt of indeterminate color and jeans are torn nearly to shreds, and an edge of fear shines sharp and clear in his gaunt, dirt, and maybe blood-smudged face. You fight the urge to take a step back and hold your ground. You'd only back into the altar anyway, which is at perfect back of the knee height. All the better to trip over backwards and land flat on your back in front of an armed stranger. You finally find and untangle your tongue. "What? Come on," he shouts before you can finish the first word. Voice strained and nearly breaking before lunging forward, faster than you can react. He grabs your wrist in the startling grip of one cold, grimy hand, and with the knife in the other, starts to pull you away through the woods. "It's okay, don't worry," the young man babbles as he pulls you through the dark forest. "I'll have you out of here in however long it takes us to get out of these woods. I think this is the right direction, maybe." It isn't, but you don't tell him that, even as he looks back at you for just a moment, eyes wide and terrified, and obviously confused that you're not. "Where are we going?" you ask instead, voice level, the kind of tone you'd use on a frightened deer, not a slavering predator. It seems to break through some of his clear panic. "Away," he cries, and it sounds almost like a sob. "Away from here, somewhere safe, somewhere they'll never find us." "Who's they?" you ask, slightly worried to hear the answer. Still, if anything dangerous lurked in these particular shadows, surely you would know? He stops and half turns, giving you a wide-eyed, frightened look. "I'm just not gonna let anything hurt you, okay?" "What do you think was going to happen to me back there?" you counter. "Are you kidding? The altar, the knife, it's midnight. They were going to sacrifice you. I know what that looks like." He's shaking and tears threaten to spill from his eyes. "Look, you're even dressed up for it. You have to admit, you do look the part." On nights like this, you feel as much fae as human, as much fawn as star. Small, light, wood-carved antlers sit atop your head, and tiny white freckles fall like snowdrops down your face and neck, shining in your little star spell, interrupted only by your black leather collar and its smooth metal ring, whose lower edge falls gently against your collarbone. I must say, the descriptions in this story is fantastic. It's very, very sensual. This is like, it's written to be extremely sensual. I love it. I know it's a bit of an interruption, but I just got a comment on all that. The initial scene with the grass and the rain was awesome. It was like so like they describe to you the specific sensations that are supposed to that are like important. It's so well done. I'm just so fascinated by this kind of writing. Of course, you probably need to know a little bit of how those things feel in order to actually appreciate them, but still, it's still like something that gets you to think about them. Okay, continuing. Glittering swirls of deep indigo purple, iridescent green and brilliant gold starbursts trail from your eyes past your cheekbones, forming small galaxies and nebulas on your skin. The intricate shapes continue their shining butterfly wing paths down your neck, disappearing beneath your robe's low-cut neckline. Something about knowing the carefully applied decoration goes all the way down makes you feel accomplished, glorious, proud. You've turned yourself into living art, made yourself look as celestial as you feel. You don't just run beneath or among the stars, you are one of them. You are of them. And something about the way he's staring, concern mixed with obvious awe, makes you almost smile. How do you know I don't just dress up like this every night? Your tone is teasing, but he doesn't laugh or smile or look anything but terribly worried. Listen, I'm not in danger. I chose this. If I hadn't, I wouldn't be here. He says nothing, just keeps looking at you with that painfully tense, exhausted, haunted stare. How can I convince you? I don't think you can, he says quietly and noticeably shivers. I know what I saw. I know what happens next, even if you don't. He keeps his hand on your wrist. You keep your eye on him, and the both of you keep going. You continue through the woods, which seem to grow darker, thicker, less familiar, more forbidding. He's not gripping your wrist as tightly anymore, but seems just as compelled to put distance between the two of you and the altar. Still, all this may be alarming, but it's not terrifying just yet. After all, you're a powerful witch and not at all defenseless. People tend to underestimate you thanks to your unassuming presence and the general consensus that you wouldn't non-consensually hurt a fly. But you've known your powers for years, as well as you know yourself. It's been years since you've had to hide them for fear of ostracization, abuse, or simply invoking fear in others. That has never been your goal or desire. But you're much more powerful than anyone looking at you would ever guess. And on nights like this, you feel even stronger. With the moon above you so big and bright and close, you feel as if you could reach out, pluck a real star from the sky, whisper your desires and expect them to answer. There's nothing you can't do. Nobody is making you do anything you don't want to do. No one ever has. No one ever will. But even without your magic and all alone, you place pretty good odds on yourself versus an exhausted and half-starved boy in a fight. If you're tired of this or feeling at all threatened, you could fairly easily try to escape and probably succeed. Probably because he'd never see it coming. This young man is clearly distressed to the point of terror, and you can tell by the quick, meant to be reassuring glance and strange smile he throws your way that he genuinely thinks he's helping you, when it seems to you that he's the one who needs help. Maybe the help he needs is you. Okay, it seems like there's an option here. There's highlight over the word try to escape, and there's a highlight over maybe the help he needs is you. It seems like they're giving us an option here. So I'm gonna save on slot 1. Okay, we're gonna go with the help, because I'm curious. Why are you doing this? You ask as calmly and non-judgmentally as you can. I told you I'm saving you. There's a thickness to his voice, a loud sniff. You don't need to see his face to know it's streaked with tears. Stop, stop, you say, and to your surprise, he does. His crashing steps come to a halt, and he lets go of your wrist without hesitation, as if it never occurs to him that you might run away. When he turns, his eyes are wet as you'd expect. Thank you. Now why do you think I was in danger? I was like you once, he explains, words falling out in a breathless rush. They tried to sacrifice me too, they almost did. But I got away. I ran, and then I found you, about to be sacrificed too. And I'm not letting that happen to you, never again, not ever. You have many questions, but one small, almost absurdly normal one comes to mind. What's your name? Mine's Venus. I like the planet or the deity. Like the what? He asks, sounding once more bewildered. You feel a pang of alarm. What has this boy been through that he's missing this common knowledge? Even if it wasn't one of the most foundational parts of your life, it's unsettling. Never mind, you say, deciding to stick to the basics and the point. Venus is a lot of things, but most of all, it's me. What about you? I don't have a name, he says, another most abnormal answer to your supposedly normal question. But when they did talk to me, they called me 9, because if I hadn't escaped, I would have been their 9th sacrifice. Your mouth hangs open. You can't quite remember how to breathe or even blink. You feel like a landed and grounded fish, helpless on a bone-dry earth. You can think of nothing to say back, nothing that would encapsulate enough horror, sympathy, and disbelief. Not of his words, but that the world can be such a brutal and cruel place. A chill wind blows, forest canopy turning it to whispers and eerie withering. Then a pair of yellow eyes shine out at you from the darkness. Twin eclipses shine down from above you, the bright golden irises nearly blotted out by huge round black pupils. No sound accompanies their appearance. Owl feathers are deathly silent even when you're not their prey, and you can barely make out the shape of wings and feathery horns around them. But of course, like many things in this forest, this owl is not what it seems. You name them your dominus, your protector, and you delight in the small wordplay. They name themselves Jupiter, like the huge and wondrous planet that lights up your sky, with all the power of a raging storm and all the tranquility of the cosmos, guardian of its many little moons. You named yourself Venus, but that's not your only name. You're their starling, their little star, their little bird, sometimes their fawn when the moon and clock strikes. Oh, wow, okay. I just picked up on all that. Around the time you fell in love with the forest guardian, you realized they'd rather die themselves than see you hurt. This whole forest is their dominion, under their spell, and nothing can hurt you in Jupiter's arms, the safest and most loved place you know. You ache to be wrapped up in them right now, surrounded, held, until nothing frightening could ever reach you, because it no longer exists. There's only been one person in your life who hasn't either underestimated or feared you. Your dominus has always seen you for who you are and who you want to be. Jupiter has always helped you be who you want to be. You belong to Jupiter, Jupiter belongs to the stars, and this night belongs to you. But you can't see them right now, only 9. 9 turns his frightened gaze on you and grabs at your wrist again, and you suspect it's more for comfort than anything. He opens his mouth and starts to say something, but Jupiter's voice fills your head again before either of you can move. Venus. A wonderfully familiar voice booms. It doesn't come from the owl. Instead, as before, it seems to emanate from everywhere around you, but only exists in your own mind. Still, just because something is only in your mind doesn't mean it's not real. Are you alright? What is he doing to you? I'm not doing anything, 9 yelps, and you jump, not from the sudden noise, but realization. The owl is talking to me. What is that? What is happening? Ah, that's interesting. That that is very interesting. Hmm. He didn't threaten me exactly, you start to interject, but you've known Jupiter long enough to not be surprised when they jump right back in. Not much tends to stop them once they get going like this. Jupiter's always had a flair for drama, especially the righteous kind. You, stranger, you dare threaten my star? Your dominus thunders, a furious contrast to the owl's silent stare, and the woods seem to tremble in response. Prey upon my sweet fawn on this sacred night, in our home under my protection. There are less painful ways to invite death, I assure you. I'm sorry, Nine cries. I was just trying to help. I wasn't going to hurt Venus, I promise. Please don't hurt me. They're not going to... Wait, you heard that? You ask, watching the surprise and interest as Nine starts to back away from the owl, blade raised as if it or anything could possibly defend him from the forest's personified wrath. Only other witches can hear out our telepathy. Are you one of us? One of you, Nine repeats shakily, and his grip on you increases until you try to gently shake it off, to no avail. I don't know, who are you even? Take your hands off my submissive, Jupiter. Voice rings in your head like a bell, so clear it's almost painful. Nine immediately obeys, snatching his hand back from your wrist so quickly as if it's your skin has burned him. Walk away, keep walking, and leave these woods, never come back. Then the owl unblinking stare shifts to you. Their voice softens, a gentle stroke instead of the blows meant for your captor, and somehow even the gaze of the owl seems to as well. Venus, I'm coming. Don't worry, I'm flying to you as you breathe. Just stay where you are, tell him to get his interloping ass out of our woods, and I'll be right there before you know it. You nod, but don't verbally confirm. Jupiter might have given you an instruction, but sometimes there are no absolutes. During extenuating or emergency circumstances, you're encouraged to make your own way, and these circumstances are quite extenuating indeed. The choice remains yours. Just give me a minute, you say to the owl, and your dominus trying to sound in control and confident, and then trying to actually feel it. I don't think he's going to hurt me. I think he needs help. Yes, I can see that, Jupiter says dryly as Nine starts and aims a defensive knife swipe at a small rustling of leaves. He only seems slightly reassured when the unconcerned squirrel emerges from the bush to zip happily on its way. But must you be the one to give it? I'd like to try, you conclude with a small nod to yourself. Don't come for me just yet. Give me a chance to talk to him. We feel more than hear Jupiter sigh in the breaths of wind through the trees, in the silence that's fallen around you, as if every creature here holds its breath. All right, I trust you'll do whatever it takes to escape if necessary, and you can trust that I'm still coming for you. I'll be there soon. The strange man still has a desperate grip on Jupiter's knife. It's the kind of thing that should terrify you, but it doesn't. That knife has never hurt anyone before, and it never will. Don't worry, you say quietly. You don't need to actually speak out loud at all. Jupiter could hear even your weakest cry for help, wherever you are within the boundaries of these woods. I'll tell you if I need help, I promise. Until then, trust me. Always. Is there only one choice here? Yeah. Like an emergency parachute or fire extinguisher, the two of you have something that makes you feel better knowing it's there, but you hope the need never arises to actually use it. Eclipse. All you have to do is say the word eclipse, and all of this will end on your command, immediately and owing nothing to anyone. You don't even have to scream it or say it more than once. A whisper would be enough. So eclipse is the safe word. Oh my god, so appropriate. Wow. Okay. Okay, I'm just I'm really into this now. Oh, it's so cool. I love it. It's so thematically matching. You trust Jupiter completely. Your dominus would stop the world to protect you. They'd stop its orbit around the sun to keep you safe, and never demand a justification or defense. You even began to trust moonless eclipse darkened nights. The owl gives you one last long stare. It's almost as if its animal eyes are silently asking you right along with Jupiter's words to be sensible, be level-headed, and be careful. Then it flutters away. The two of you are alone, but you still have the sense of being watched by many, many pairs of eyes, and 9 still holds the knife. I don't think your person likes me, 9 says in a small voice, and you can practically hear the chattering of his teeth as he shivers. Jupiter, my dominus, you say gently. What's that? My partner, my protector, literally in Latin, my guardian. So you can put that away, you say, giving the knife a nod. It's not going to do you any good. I'm not going to hurt you, he says, but lowers the blade even though it was nowhere near you to begin with. I know, I'm not the one I'm worried about. 9 almost looks offended, and yet you almost laugh. You're worried about me, so you want me to walk around in a terrifying forest without any protection? I do it all the time, you say, and then amend the statement. Actually, I just mean I walk around without a knife all the time. Nothing here is going to hurt me, and as long as you're with me, it won't hurt you either. If it lives here, it's my friend. You hold out your hand, palm up and relaxed. And if you're really trying to save me, you'll give me the knife. 9 stares at you, frozen in place, like a forest creature introduced to headlights for the first time in his life. Is this one sentence yet? Then very slowly and carefully he hands the knife to you, hilt first and point towards himself. Thank you, you say sincerely, and he just gives a fast nod, wrapping his arms around his thin upper body and tucking his chin down into his chest. Now holding the knife along with the upper hand, you survey the young man before you who, now unarmed and thoroughly defenseless, has never looked younger. You really think I'm in terrible danger, don't you? That's because you are. No, you shake your head and let out a soft laugh, running your finger across the blade's cool, sharp crescent edge. I told you, nothing is going to hurt me here, not even this. 9 doesn't protest, but doesn't look convinced either. He's scared of the knife, that's for sure. This really could be dangerous in the wrong hands, you say, securing the knife up one of your flowing sleeves, and then you pause and soften your tone. 9 still looks shocked, but not as horrified as he had a moment ago. But it isn't. What do you mean? I mean that I know how to use it, and so does Jupiter. They have very steady hands. Huh, he says, not sounding completely convinced or comprehending, but not arguing either. You don't explain, telling him the entire truth about the knife, about the transcendent fire its precisely controlled point can trail across your skin, How great the gift of your trust is, even as the edge of that blade is pressed against your throat. How sometimes you forget to breathe but remember who you really are. Maybe a bit much more for him, at least at the moment. When he is barely accepted, he's not going to die tonight. Still, with the knife no longer marked as a threat to either of you, 9 seems to have calmed down a great deal. So, okay, forget the knife, he says, hesitating and clearly suspicious as an easily spooked but curious deer. But what about that? Why would you wear that unless you were a prisoner or something? He points at the black leather collar around your neck, the metal loop hanging from it, and the shining padlock. You've worn this collar for years, but it's not because you're a crushed, abused, changed thing, broken and yearning to be free. Nothing could be more antithesis to the truth or a more bitter lie. You have not been tamed. At least not against your will. If he doesn't understand this, he'll understand nothing. I'm not a prisoner, you say slowly, searching for the right words and praying you find them. And this doesn't mean I'm in danger either. Sometimes wearing this does mean servitude and control, but that's not the most important thing to me, us. It's a simplification. In some ways, the collar is very much about control and ownership, but it's a different sort of control than what anyone would imagine. It's the kind that gives you purpose and security, that lets you relax and know that you can let go of all your anxieties and second guesses at decisions. Forget about the things that scare you, let someone else take over, and know you'll never be forgotten yourself or abandoned. Let the world turn without you for a while. It's partly a physical comfort. Wearing it makes me feel safe, protected, loved, claimed. I relax the second it goes on because it's also a reminder that I belong to someone, and that's because there's nowhere else on earth I'd rather be. Someone still put that on you and locked it, 9 protests. Who has the key to that? You smile. He obviously expects one answer, people usually do, and that's fair because it's usually accurate, but your individual truth is something else. Almost always, me? 9's mouth hangs open in the confused gape of a fish spirited away from its home and dragged up to a dry and alien world. You reach into a pocket. Then you take out a small silver key, lovingly polished to a bright gleam and surprisingly heavy. Jupiter puts the collar on me, you explain, because they wanted to show me how important I am and how they picked me, how they'll always pick me. But I'm the one who locked it, and I'm usually the one who takes it off. Most submissive wouldn't have the key, but this is one of our specific negotiations, and it's a big one for me. Like I've been saying, I'm in control here. I'm in control most places, even when it looks like I'm not. You have to chuckle. It's something of an inside joke. One 9 has no real way of getting, but you do, and if Jupiter can hear you, which they almost certainly can, so do they, especially then. Okay. Okay, that's funny. 9 doesn't answer right away. Instead, he's just been quietly listening, seeming less nervous and more curious. Interested, intrigued, if not quite trusting yet. As you'd spoken, he'd started to nod, and by now, the look on his face is still surprised and not quite comprehending, but at least willing to accept what he's not quite understand. Huh, he says slowly. Okay, maybe I believe you. Maybe. It's a promising sign. He turns and looks around the woods surrounding you as if he's seeing them for the first time. The moon shines down on you as she always does. Above, through an opening in the thick tree canopy, you can see the full moon riding high and bright amongst the clear stars. As another soft breeze whispers past you, it's easy to imagine the same wind gently pushing the feather light and buoyant moon across the endless celestial sea. You can also sense Jupiter nearby. They could have been here already. The only reason they aren't is that you told them to wait, and they listened, as they always do. Still, you could give it up and speak the word, and that will end all of this without question. Or you could stay with 9 a while longer. Now that he's actually talking, you might learn something. Yeah, let's save that. Stay with 9, okay. Could do that. Then something unexpected happens. 9 starts to laugh. It's a nice sound, surprisingly bright, even if it still rings with anxiety instead of true amusement. It's one of those exhausted, half self-deprecating, half absurdist laughs that comes from being pushed beyond your limits into a place of surrender, where your only hope is left is that surrender won't be as bad or final as it seems. Okay, he says, giggling only faintly hysterical, as he holds up his hands against a now familiar gesture that speaks even more of submission than his general demeanor, but not the welcome and healing kind you know. Okay, fine, you got me, I give up. This is your home turf, I'm the party crasher, and everything you said so far has been true. However nuts it sounds, you got me, I'm listening. You listen as well, and you believe him. 9 has still plainly been through all kinds of hell, and his trust is fragile and hard won. But he seems just a little more willing to give it. It's enough to make you begin to hope. I'm sorry for scaring you, he says, giggle fading as he looks at the ground, and I'm sorry for taking away from your home. But I had to do something. I couldn't just stand there when I saw you ready to be hurt. Worse than hurt, sacrificed. Symbolically, you say gently. What? He asks, looking up and brushing aside some of his scraggly hair. The hunt is mostly symbolic. I run through the woods, Jupiter hunts and catches me. There's a knife, it touches my skin, there's sexual ignition, and there's definitely a climax magic spike. It can be very intense, it might even look violent from the outside. But I'm never actually hurt, you assure him. And I definitely never die. It makes me feel more alive than anything else. The sacrifice is a ritual only. It might come with a knife, but in our case, it usually doesn't involve blood. But some do involve blood, he says bitterly, hugging his arms close to his chest again, as if he's been chilled by a sharp winter breeze on the balmy summer night. I definitely saw that, almost experienced it firsthand. I know, you say, trying to walk the balance between comfort and honesty. You shouldn't have. You didn't ask for it, and nobody asked you. There's power in blood freely given and forcibly taken, but we only deal with the first part. 9 stares at you, clearly uncomprehending. If the ritual isn't real, what good is it? 9 asks. I never said it wasn't real, you point out. I don't need to actually die to be reborn or be divine. Jupiter doesn't need to hurt me or to be powerful. We're still telling a story. We're creating something together, demonstrating the strength of our bond and power and making them even stronger. In that moment, everything is real. Your own hair stands up as you shiver. And you shiver. The thought of it alone makes your heart beat faster. Your skin sting in anticipation. But it's a wild, free-flying expectation that could never be born of fear. That sounds so different from anything I've ever knew existed, 9 says, sounding caught between disbelief and awe, tempered with faint and fragile hope. I've never seen magic that didn't hurt, or that didn't ask for something, or more like demand it, something I didn't want to give. Like I said, it doesn't sound like anyone asked how you felt about it, you observe, or cared about the answer. 9 shakes his head wordlessly, pale hair swaying. No trust, you conclude. Without trust, the only magic you get is a selfish, dysfunctional kind that doesn't care who it hurts, just chews you up and spits you out and leaves you cold and alone. I'm not going to say that's not real magic, or your old coven weren't real witches, because witches can do horrible things just as easily as anyone else. But it's not how magic should be. What you've been through, no wonder you see danger even where it isn't. 9 stares at you more shrewdly this time. You really trust Jupiter? You nod without hesitation. Something rustles nearby and you can feel them still watching, listening and loving you. Like 9, it seems Jupiter is always trying to help you. And they trust me no matter how dominant or how submissive or how lost or scared or powerful or overjoyed. We're always on each other's side. That's the most important thing. All at once, and once again, you're not alone. The nearby underbrush rustles. Okay, hold on. Oh, it's the you could do that. I didn't realize. Was there 2 here? Were there 2 options? Okay, that's fine then. All at once, and once again, you're not alone. The nearby underbrush rustles, and another looming animal shape emerges from the dark. But instead of a winged creature, this one walks on 4 enormous paws, claws almost as big and sharp as the owl's own talons. The wolf is huge, black fur shining like an onyx field of a wind-swept grass, its bright yellow eyes flashing a reflective blue as they fall upon you, and then shift away to fix 9 with a steely, too human stare. You boy, Jupiter says, and 9 doesn't correct them. He doesn't startle this time either, watching the wolf with obvious fear but not panic. Your dominus voice sounds somehow closer and fainter at the same time, more a whisper in your ear than a shout from every direction. Jupiter might be getting closer to where you are now, but you're nearing the edge of the woods, and their power has always stretched thin on your home's outskirts. I heard what you said, what that coven did to you, and what they almost did to you was monstrous, evil, completely unacceptable. If they were here, they'd wish they weren't. I would make them wish they had never laid eyes or hands on you or anyone else. They may not have hands or other body parts to hurt anyone with by the time I finished, but that does not allow you to kidnap my submissive against our will. I do not allow you. I'm not being kidnapped yet, you remind them quietly, and the wolf surprisingly soft-looking ears swivel partially in your direction, but its eyes remain locked on 9. He meets the huge silent beast's gaze without flinching, despite the sheen of cold sweat on his face. Still, he has no right, Jupiter maintains, resolve as steady and cold as the wolf's eyes. Nothing gives him, anyone, the right to separate us like that. To take us away from each other with no warning, no choice, nothing. There's no obvious change in the mental voice, but you know immediately. You'd always know anywhere, in any time, in any life. Jupiter is scared. Your relationship is a symbolic one, your symbiotic one. Your equals, no matter how it may look or what other judgments outsiders may take. Jupiter adores, defends, and directs you, and you inspire comfort and delight them. Something about your presence seems to stabilize their influence over the woods, strengthens their voice and their power. Everything about theirs Everything about theirs ease your mind and soothes your dreams. You brighten each other's lives, bringing light to a twisting forest path and a vast night that would otherwise be deep indeed. When you're together, the darkness is comforting, the shadows home, and even knives feel like kisses. Okay, this is so good. It's so beautiful. You've only left for a couple of days at the longest. You've only left for a couple of days at the longest, usually to get human-made supplies or visit your new few trusted friends who don't reside here. Jupiter's never impeded or protested your leaving, but you've always had a plan before, known when you'd be back, and they were always so glad to see you return. Like the sun had risen again after the longest night of their life. You need your Dominus, but Jupiter needs you, their dear little starling, sweet celestial fawn, just as much. There's no question of that. And 9 stands before you, exhausted, bloodied, and frightened. Right now, you're not certain who needs you more. I'm sorry, 9 whispers. I was just... The wolf doesn't so much as snarl or take a single step forward, but he still quails under its uncomfortably undivided attention and falls silent. He and the wolf both await your decision. Somewhere just beyond the tree line, so does Jupiter. You can feel it, you can feel them. As always, you hold the power to end this now. You could call out the safe word, send 9 away forever, and wait for your Dominus to come find you and take you home. You wouldn't have to wait for long. But maybe there's something about 9, his earnestness and determination, despite his obvious fear and pain, his willingness to listen, even when your words are alien compared to everything he's been ever known, that makes you want to listen. Maybe your mind has begun to change. Maybe it's enough to make you want to at least try to change Jupiter's mind as well. Huh. Interesting. What does that mean? What does that mean, change? Makes you maybe your mind has begun to change? About what? Nine's obviously a witch, like us, but even if he wasn't, he'd need help, you say, quite calmly and reasonably given the circumstances. And even if he hadn't almost just been killed, do you remember what it was like being on your own? I do. I don't know if I'd be alive if you hadn't found me. Nobody should go through that, especially not if we can help. If we can help him. So what then? You're just going to go with him? An edge of clear fear enters Jupiter's voice in earnest. For the first time, you've rarely heard it before, and it chills your blood more than any shout or snarl ever could. You know, Venus, love, I'm asking you, just please come home, come back to me. You hesitate and nobody breaks the silence. When Jupiter speaks again, there's no change to their tone, but you know without words that they're speaking directly to you. 9 can't hear them, no one can. Their most vulnerable words are for you alone, as always. If my starling disappeared tonight, my sky would be empty. It would eclipse my heart. And there it is. They have the power here, same as you. If you were the one to say the word, they'd drop everything to make sure you are safe. You know this from the deepest reaches of your own aching heart. How can you refuse when they ask you like that? Like the world depends on your answers. I'll come back, you promise, and mean it. Nothing could keep you away. I'll always come back to you. The wolf stares directly into your eyes as if to confirm, a strangely human expression, somehow urgent and wistful at the same time in its own. Then it's gone. You're alone with 9 again, and again the choice is yours. You could walk away on your own and end this now. Listen when your sweet Jupiter begs you to please come home. 9 wouldn't stop you now, you're certain. Or you could stay with him just a little longer, at least to say goodbye properly. But maybe not even that. Something tells you that you're not done here, that this isn't the way you want this strange night to end. But whatever you decide, you'd better do it quickly. The presence of Jupiter's mind against yours is fading. You're getting out of range, and this will be your last chance if you want 9 to stay. You're almost to the edge of Jupiter's woods, your woods. Just a few steps further and you'll be out of your sanctuary. Thrust back to a world that doesn't understand you or even want to, and doesn't care if you're safe or warm or loved. But Jupiter's close, they're coming to find you, and you couldn't leave them even if you wanted to, because nothing you could ever find outside these woods would be worth inflicting that kind of pain on your Dominus, lover and friend. Disregarding their plea would be like crushing your own heart right along with them, leaving the both of you broken. But before you can even say anything, 9 stops walking. Listen, I'm sorry, he says, and you've never gotten the impression that he doesn't mean it. Nothing 9 said to you has ever lacked the ring of truth, naked and raw. I'll just go. I shouldn't have barged in where I wasn't invited. Sorry for ruining your night. Hope you can still have a nice ritual or whatever. You leaving now? You blink at him in not entirely welcome surprise. Yeah, he confirms, voice more resolute and eyes regaining some of the determination you'd seen burn in the moment before he grabbed your wrist for the first time. But nothing so desperate or so frightened, not anymore. I'm gone. I don't know where I'm going, but I'll figure it out. I have so far. You can totally still come with me, honestly. I'd love it if you did, but now that I know you're not gonna die... I'm not, you said softly, and I can't come with you. Jupiter needs me just as much as I need them. I can't leave. Not this suddenly, not knowing where I'm going or where I'll be when I'll be back. I understand, 9 says slowly, reluctantly. Though you can tell it's also truthfully. He might not want to understand, but he does. I get it now. Maybe you're right, and I was only seeing what I was afraid to see. But just cause I had a bad time or a lot of bad times doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. And do you believe me now? You ask. If I told you I was going home where I'd be safe and that I'd be safe on the way, you wouldn't try to stop me? No, I won't, 9 promised, looking at the ground. And don't worry, you won't catch me around here again. I'll never bother either of you again, I swear. You believe him, he won't be any more trouble, and is probably too ashamed to even try ever again. He takes a step back. Wait, stay with me just for a minute, you say quickly. I want Jupiter to at least meet you, and I want you to see them. I know I've told you I'm safe, but I want you to walk away seeing that and believing it. I never want you to wonder if you've made the right choice tonight. I don't want this to be something that haunts you. I think you're haunted by too much already. 9 stops, hesitating, wide-eyed and breathless, like someone caught on the edge of two disparate and mutually exclusive lives. Someone lost in the space between two rooms, part of neither and wavering on the threshold. But there can be no lingering in liminal spaces like this. Eventually, one has to pass through. Finally, he nods. A smile pulls at the corner of his pale, cracked lips. Okay. And just as 9 crosses one threshold, the next makes itself known. Swiftly and without ceremony for once, Jupiter appears. Everybody expects the guardian of a forest to be a thin willow tree or a delicate sprite, a sparkling nymph like you, but what you get is so much better. Their face is as round and bright as the full moon, and just as beautiful. Their gray eyes like twin moons within. Their body matches heavy and solid, comforting and smelling and feeling like home. You run to them and you're enveloped in their warm, fat arms and wonderful softness, both their body and their warm black cloak that curls around you like an embrace of wings. Jupiter kisses you with firm affection, murmuring soft words in your ear that you barely understand, only that you're together the way you're meant to be, only that you're safe and loved. Then they place both your wrists behind your back and very gently take hold. The moment you find yourself lovingly restrained, held, kept, claimed, every bit of tension melts away from your muscles and your head spins, dizzy with relief. Then Jupiter falls silent and you feel instead of see their attention shift. I think he looks like Totoro. Jupiter looks like Totoro is what I'm thinking. That's what the description sounds like.
Without the...
Yeah. Hello 9, they say as they release your wrists but keep one hand around your waist. They're not angry or frightened anymore, speaking in a voice almost as soft and sweet as the one they've just used for you. If it was anyone else, you'd be surprised, but nothing they do, no good thing anyway, surprises you anymore. Hi Jupiter, he says, quietly but not as anxiously as before. It must help to see that they're a person with a guarded but kind face and a solid but not threatening body, and not someone intangible, eldritch, natural force. Not some intangible, eldritch, natural force. Have you adjusted your preconceptions? Jupiter doesn't demand. They don't shout or rage or threaten. You've seen them with small forest beings, heard them speak like this to orphaned fox kits and deer snared or antler catching vines. The woods can be nurturing as well as deadly, and so can they. Yes, he says with a nod and then another. I'm sorry for trying to take Venus. I'm sorry for jumping to the worst possible conclusion without knowing either of you, and I'm sorry for ruining your special night. There will be more special nights. Do you think all knives are dangerous? That's a shift in perspective. Like, that sentence, the 2 sentences.
It's like...
That's awesome. Not if they're in the right hands, 9 says, and you think you detect the hint of a blush in his warm cheeks under the grime. But it is dark and the light is faint, and you know better than to rely on first impressions. Venus said you have very steady hands. Okay. This is going in a different direction. Okay. Jupiter hides many things. Jupiter hides many things, themselves from the outside world, you from anyone without your best interests at heart, sometimes their feelings even from you. They're certainly hiding their vulnerabilities and doubts from 9 right now. If you didn't know better, you'd never think a smile was among those hidden things. Fortunately, you do. It's been us alone all this time, Jupiter reflects, clearly amused as much as pensive, not bitter. We're not isolated from everyone in the world. We've had friends and lovers, but they've been known, agreed upon. You were a surprise. Now they do smile just a bit. Jupiter survives 9 thoughtfully, and neither he nor you break the silence or the concentration. You know, I came to these woods for a reason. Two reasons. The shadows sang to my blood, and there are no. The shadows sang to my blood, and are no annoying, close minded, dangerous people to deal with out here. Only one person has ever wandered in and interrupted my lifetime of solitude. You bite your lip, hiding a smile of your own. Jupiter speaks as if they're ancient, instead of just a couple years older than you. I had a choice back then to let them stay or cast them out, and I'm very glad I didn't listen to my first instinct, the one that came from anger and pain. That was you, Venus. If anything was going to convince me to open my heart again, it's the presence of you and you, Nine. A precedent of you and you, Nine. Jupiter stops, a frown creasing their brow, and you can feel Nine holding his breath right along with you. Do I still frighten you? No, he says without hesitation, warming you from the inside. I think you're really cool. Okay. I think you're really cool, strong, but nice. Like you can take care of yourself and just about anyone else. You can be scary when you want to be, but I don't think you are. I certainly can be. Now Jupiter makes no effort to hide their smile. Just like these woods definitely demand respect, to forget that it is to invite disaster. But do they still frighten you? A little, Nine admits, but not as much as when I was alone in them. And you two definitely know what you're talking about. Even the knife, I think I could get to be okay with it as long as you're well. I'm not alone again. Then I just have one more question. Do you want to stay here? Nine's jaw drops, face shocked, and blue eyes open wide. He doesn't answer right away. He may be afraid, so you speak instead. Would it really be alright, you ask, and like the wolf's soft ears, Jupiter's soft eyes immediately turn to your face. It doesn't have to be forever, just until he finds his feet and gets his bearings on the world again. You act like this is the first time a lost soul has wandered in here, they say, curling one large arm around your waist, letting out a muted please sound when you automatically lean against them and relax. But why are you asking me? Because I love you and I want you to be happy. Then there's your answer. Jupiter rubs your back in a slow circle and then turns their gaze, just as piercing and focused as the wolves and the owls, but nowhere cold as at Nine. And what's yours? Nine folds his arms and frowns again, this time in a thoughtful way. If I stayed with you, what would you do with me? Give you a shower and clean clothes, Jupiter says immediately. Priorities always blunt and unabashed. Give you the solid meal you look like you've never had in your life. Give you a place to sleep, which I also doubt you often experience. Then whatever you like, you'd be free to leave anytime, and we'd be free to ask you to at any time, provided we find a safe place for you instead. And if we would all rather you stay, their eyes travel to you and then back. We'll negotiate, we'll figure it out together, one night at a time. Does that sound like something you'd like? Slowly, tentatively, Nine nods. Just as tentatively, he smiles. Yeah, he says quietly, looking from you to Jupiter and back with tentative but clear hope. I think I'd like that a lot. If you want me, I'll try not to be scared if I see something I don't understand. But even if I do, I still want to be here. I want to be with you. Part of you, admittedly a large part of you now, also wants Nine to stay with you. One that sees the truth of him, this well-meaning, scared, brave boy under the dirt and blood and knee-jerk panic. You try to imagine what it might be like to know him, live with him, care about him, and find you can imagine it very easily. You have equally little trouble picturing Jupiter teaching him about life in your forest haven, even if your relationships differ from however nines evolve. You know your Dominus will show him the same care and guardianship as they've shown you for so long. None of it feels diminished with the arrival of a third, only grown. Thinking about an extended time with 9 here comes with a bit more comes with a bit more difficulty, but only because you have so many unanswered questions on both sides. The future is nebulous, but with honesty, communication, and trust, you'll see a clear path. The nice part about the life you've chosen is that you never have to walk alone. There's still a choice here. I'm gonna save. Yeah, this is a choice. Not a choice, but it's a continuation. But I'm gonna stop here. We're not gonna continue because, you know, I don't want to give away the whole story on. Okay, I think I've done this game for an hour and a half. Okay, anyway, this is fantastic. So I'm gonna stop here because it's fantastic. So this game is called The Three Body Problem by RoAnna Sylver. If you want to check it out, it's at this is our game number 610, and it's at roannasilver.h.io. And if you want to find out what happens next or what any of the other paths lead to, just get this game. I think it's how much is it again? It's $5 US. It's got 9,000 words, I think. It's a 9K piece of interactive fiction. Yeah, so there's nothing else to say about it. I think that's a very good display of what this story is about. And yeah, so there are other options, other pathways, more details of it. So I'm sure there's like a lot to explore. So if you want to check it out, just check out that link I posted. And yeah, you can experience it yourself.